After the last game, Eidos honestly had plans to shift development to Montreal, and well, Eidos got eaten up by Square Enix, which kinda lit a fire under a lot of their other franchises, and well, it did the same for the Deus Ex franchise, that many at the time felt was really dead, because of another game I won't mention right now. So, how faithful is this prequel to the original? Is Human Revolution even good? Well, it's time to find out. This is Deus Ex Human Revolution. So to get this right off the bat, Human Revolution is a good game. A great game, many might say, but I'm gonna try to have a balanced review and point out problems and strengths of the game. Mainly, I kinda want to point out things that most reviews or even the developers themselves kinda leave out of their own criticisms.
Yeah, I think it's almost borderline sexist, really, just the way she's standing there.
I think it's out of character.
It's out of character, but it's also like,
totally
it's a woman waiting for a man and she's like, like, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes we know it, but we realize it too late.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Human Revolution begins just like how the previous games start off, with shadowy characters talking.
What do you mean, almost?
Unlike in the second game, what they're talking about kind of stays mysterious for the most part. We are then introduced to Adam Jensen and his ex-girlfriend, Megan Reed, who are going to reveal a new discovery to which we don't really know about, and apparently Jensen doesn't know himself. Actually, throughout the whole game, things are kept very vague. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, so you're introduced to all the characters you're supposed to care about before, well, this happens. So after that, you're rebuilt by your employer, and now you roam the streets of Detroit looking for justice. Wait, isn't that just RoboCop?
It's this movie from the 1980s, about this cop. He gets all shut up, and gets rebuilt as a cyborg.
Is that with Van Damme?
No, that's something else. I'm surprised you never heard of it. Takes place in the future Detroit.
I guess I'm just not into sci-fi.
Anyways, the game revolves around finding out who exactly was responsible for the attacks on your company. Gameplay, for the most part, has been improved. Now, combat isn't janky anymore. Both you and your enemies have high damage values. If you don't know exactly what you're going to do and you just needlessly attack, it's game over. Through this and the XP rewards, the game incentivizes stealth, and thankfully the stealth system has been fixed. Your main tools of stealth are going to be the Trank Dart, Stun Gun, Peps Gun, and your OP takedown move, but it's not really OP. You have a certain amount of these takedowns as they take up battery charges for some reason, but that's okay because it forces you to be strategic with your takedowns and your overall stealth. It solves the problem of the pacifist stealth in the first game, as headshots almost immediately knocks out your opponents. It seems that the only way to actually do pacifism right in Deus Ex 1 or 2 was to just sneak past everyone, and there really wasn't an incentive to do so. In this game, almost every action is rewarded with XP, which at each level up grants a level up token. These tokens can be found in the environment and through shops. This is really where the game differs in design from the first two games. The first two Deus Ex games were RPGs with FPS action elements, very much like the first two System Shock games. Human Revolution is more of an action RPG. When the first Deus Ex heavily mixed the RPG systems of System Shock with the openness of the early Fallout, Human Revolution mixes the upgrade systems of, well, most action games today, and with the likes of Splinter Cell and Rainbow Six. It does very well, but the mechanics are less deep. Well, what do I mean by that, you might ask? Well, think of the upgrade choices you had to make in the original Deus Ex, well, in the first two, at least. You were locked out of certain augmentations once you chose one. You had to make a certain character. You really had to plan out your character and what skill point and augmentations you were actually going to use. Compare that with Deus Ex Human Revolution, where after picking all of the upgrades that could be construed as non-violent, I still had points left over to put into the devastating but costly Typhoon augmentation. An augmentation I really didn't use because, well, it didn't really fit the playstyle I wanted to go for. I hope I'm not coming across as nitpicky and that I'm properly getting my point across that the upgrade system kind of really doesn't matter. Yeah, it's nice to have some of the upgrades that you want early on in the game. It really throws enough points at you to make your character whatever you want at any time. My Adam Jensen isn't really unique when, well, pretty much everyone has a Typhoon at the end of the game. When Adam Jensen can pick up every weapon in the game and use it effectively, it kind of minimizes the urgency of being good at the weapons you're specializing in, when you can just pick up a bad guy's gun and can just continue firing. But really, these criticisms aren't really criticisms, they're more observations, because I just feel like I'm lamenting the fact that the game isn't as deep as it used to be. It feels like more of a criticism of what the game isn't than what the game is. I like the inventory system in this one. It's that old school grid-based system that balances out OP weapons by making both their weapons and ammo take up more space. The game kind of facilitates specialization through this. And you really wouldn't want ammo for a gun you don't use to take up your precious space. Hacking is now a meaningful, puzzly minigame that gives you rewards, and it's not just a boring progress bar. Certain times in the game, you go into this conversation mode that allows you to try to persuade the other person to do something like free the hostage. It's one of those many systems in the game that just feels good. But I do have some criticisms that I do feel that aren't really nitpicks. So the game really wants you to explore its environments, yet they put waypoints to show you really how to get to a certain objective. And the newer Fallout games tend to have this problem. When you see that a reticle, all you're trying to do is making numbers go down in a meaningless, mindless walk. This is more of a problem in Fallout, where the environments typically consist of a road, a pond, and a hill, and not a dense cityscape that Deus Ex has. But the point still applies. In the first game, where they'd have to pay attention to what someone was saying to know where to go, which kind of rolls into my next problem, the boss battles. But Sean, the boss battles were fixed in the director's cut of the game, which I kind of say, yeah, kind of. The first time I played the director's cut, I knew that the fixes were there, but I couldn't really find them. I don't know, I guess I'm stupid or something. They're there, but they're not really well designed, and they're just really cop-outs to me. That still doesn't change the fact that a lot of these fights feel meaningless. A good boss battle has meaning, and they're not just some rando just stopping you for some ambiguous reason that, well, you don't really understand. For well-defined characters, this is something that the other Deus Ex games set up really well. Why do you want to fight the weird country meathead guy? I don't know, he's trying to shoot you, that's why. But the reason Gunter Hoerman in the original Deus Ex wants to fight you is because not only were you a threat to his safety and of his job, you also killed his friend Anna Navarro. You're this sleek killing or non-killing machine, and he's just this goofy looking thing. He sees himself as obsolete, and the options you have to kill him vary, or not killing him. There's nothing in this game as clever as, learning Gunther's kill phrase that, boom, just say the word, he's dead. Maybe this code that you're giving at the end of the game, if it's successfully get Darrow to give it up, but it fails in comparison. The director's cut version of the game adds the Missing Link DLC, which was kind of a surprise when I was playing the game because it's integrated into the game itself and kind of pads out the length, and also it has better graphics than the rest of the game. It was kind of weird. It kind of pads out the length in a bad way, though. Missing Link isn't really bad in itself as a standalone DLC, but it serves this purpose of explaining where this came from, and well, that wasn't really felt like something that was missing. I don't know why that's there, but sure, I guess so. It just slows down what was really already a well-placed experience. So what I've been alluding to throughout this review so far is that I have some fundamental problems with the storytelling in this game. It's serviceable, but it's kind of the weakest in the series, but hear me out, okay? So tell me, what happened in the game. A lot of you could tell me the beginning, bit in the middle, and the end of the game, but why did you go to those places? What exactly happened? I didn't completely forget the plot, but I knew the locations, but I don't know what brought me there. I had to look it up, and, well, synopsis is just basically, you met this person. They told me to go somewhere else. I went to that place. It's serviceable, it works, but it's not as good as 1 or 2, where you're given evidence of why you should choose the certain ending. Well, they don't really do it that well in this main storyline. In the side storylines they do. David Seraph talks very vaguely about progress. We don't really know why. He's trying to get us to believe in augmentation, but the storyline boils down to augmentation good, augmentation bad. Deus Ex 1, the arguments in there is about is it okay to have a omnipotent government that controls everything if it's benevolent? The writing in this one is it just leaves so much out. It just doesn't feel right. One of the clever things that they do throughout the game is this new renaissance that really is told through the clothing of certain characters and, well, a lot of the imagery that is really powerful imagery. It poses these questions, but it just leaves them there. It just doesn't do anything. It doesn't show any arguments or anything like the original Deus Ex does, but this one is just, it's really hard to explain because unless you've played the original Deus Ex, well, those conversations flowed, why those arguments for the government, why those endings were so significant, and why these endings suck. They don't, okay, so you're gonna, they just, no, but no. Why? It's one of the most laziest endings ever. It's just like, hey, pick your ending. They might have just pulled up a screen that said, hey, what ending do you want? Because here's some choices right here. The other ones, you had to work for it, and then throughout the whole thing, there were arguments pro and against it, you know? When they posed the questions for each one, when people were appealing to you for their side of the argument, they actually gave examples. They told you why you should do what you should do. And this one is just like, okay, hey, you know, this is what's gonna happen. It assumes that change is gonna happen, and the problem is really to have a multiple ending in this, you know that nothing's really gonna change because, well, Deus Ex happens. It's a prequel to Deus Ex, and yeah, there's the post-credits epilogue that's actually more interesting than any of the conversations in the whole game because it reveals the guy at the beginning of the game to be Bob Page. It makes an argument for transhumanism, but it doesn't really do that. It doesn't really have a concise message. It doesn't afford it by its one topic. Deus Ex 1 covered about the power of government, transhumanism, class disparity, all these topics. Yet I felt it did it very well, but this one has only pretty much one topic of transhumanism, and, well, it doesn't really do that well, at least in the main storyline. It has many analogies. The whole augmentation thing has very many analogies that it tries to do, like, oh, it's like medications, like our reliance on corporate medicine or something like that, or it's like people who are augmented are like people who are colored or gay or some kind of other subjected minority. I don't know. It's just, but it doesn't really do it that well. The next Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, looks to have this unified message. It looks better. Who knows? I could be wrong. But now I'm just rambling because, well, I wrote most of this and then I just started rambling in the last part because I felt like I was missing some stuff. Deus Ex Human Revolution is a good game. And don't let anything I've said in this review deter you from playing this game and deciding for yourself. Actually, the whole series is good and is worth a play. Less so Invisible War, but there's enjoyment that can be found in the game. For the most part, I like the game. It's not my preferred Deus Ex game, but I hope that Mankind Divided ends off really well, and that the themes of what they're trying to put in the game, the Mankind Divided, is really illustrated in the game. Deus Ex is a great series, but mainly when the series is about conspiracies about the government and how much government control should there be? Should the people be allowed to rule themselves? Does it really need the guiding hand of an outside force? These really interesting conversations that have these pros and cons that are argued about these characters in these games, but Human Revolution doesn't really do it as well. It just leaves these questions, just asks the questions, it just doesn't give you enough information to make a choice. It's just your personal preference. It doesn't really make you change your beliefs of government and all. I felt Deus Ex 1 was a life-changing experience, and well, I played it in college, in my first year of college. Yeah, Deus Ex Human Revolution, play it. Play the director's cut. It's better than the original cut. Also, oh wait, before I leave, you should play it once, and then the second time play it with the commentary. Really gives you insight about how the game was made, and it's really interesting. It's one of my favorite things to do in the game whenever I see that there's director's commentary or commentary at all, or even a movie. If it's a movie I like or a game I like, I'll play it again right away and play it with the commentary. And I watched Fight Club like 4 times because it has like 4 different like commentary tracks with different people in it. So, well, I know this review's kind of gone off the rails, and you know, most people probably checked out a long time ago. But you know, if you're here, you're the real fan. You know, Adam Jensen, he thumbs you up. He says you're a really cool guy. And next time, well, mankind is gonna get a little bit more divided. Turns out that I didn't actually record a user review for this one, so this is after I've edited the first time through, so I'm coming in the second time, and this is like a last addition to the end of the video. But here's a user review that I thought was kind of funny. I did ask for this.